What's going on, everybody? Good to see you again. Welcome back to another episode of Just Talking Ball. It is a great week to talk ball. We're rolling. This thing is starting to wrap up. But before I go any further, I gotta introduce and bring in my boy Eric Foster. What's going on, E?
I'm riding as high as I can.
Yeah, this is definitely as they say in movies, the turning point of this college football movie. And there's still some cliffhangers out there and some, potential what ifs. So, it's so much. But man, let's get right into it. And let's first preview, what we're going to talk about. Obviously, the coaches carousel heated up. Obviously Lane Kiffin set that thing on fire. But, just everybody else, there are a lot of people rolling and running in and getting in there. We're going to talk about what we're mad about, talk about the latest and probably most controversial up to this point college football rankings. Recap Kansas final game against Utah in Lawrence. Then we'll recap the Lone Star Showdown, which was a fun game. Obviously, everybody saw it. We'll get into some cashing in on that end. If you know, you know. And then we'll preview what we did. Or obviously, we'll talk about how we went, what our record was last week. And then we'll talk about the conference championship games upcoming. So, rolling right into it, man. The coaches carousel, let's obvious first. Not let's wait. Let's leave Lane last. big time Lane, but just some other guys. Fitzgerald was one of the ones that surprised me the most, getting the head job in conference. Obviously, I know Northwestern is his home. Couldn't stay there. But some other guys, I think, Hartline is another one that stood out. I think is a guy that's, deserving of a shot. Has done some great things at Ohio State for a long time. I don't know. Alex Golish is a big name. Summerall going to Florida. Will Stein was the latest, probably biggest one right there. They've got something rolling in Oregon, but everybody, obviously you want to be a head coach, and being around the head coaches I've been around, they want you to be ambitious. They want you to strive for greatness and improve. But, at the same time, as a head coach, you want to keep that great staff. Everybody talks about that. I forgot what year Nick Saban had, Kirby, he had Lane, he had
I believe it was
Cristobal. Yeah.
2009.
Yeah. Cristobal. He had so many,
Mel Tucker was a
yes,
DB coach.
and those guys were all head
Dan Lanning
coaches.
was a GA
GA,
that
yeah,
year.
yeah. So you always hear about that legendary staff. Out of these guys, obviously Lane Kiffin, but is there anyone that intrigued you the most? Thought any team that won on the higher?
That won on the high.
Yeah.
I've never gotten in that because I always believe that great coaches still go places and fail. So I think the grade of the hire always has to be reserved for what is the production. Honestly, I do believe LSU got the right guy for them in the right moment. We spent so much time talking about how Lane Kiffin was handling the coaching search. I think we didn't spend a ton of time talking about the dysfunction that is LSU right now. I think any top tier program, when you've got the governor of the state involved in athletics, that signifies a tremendous fracture amongst what's going on in that program. So saying that to say there's a lot of chaos surrounding LSU athletics. Who thrives in chaos? Who seeks out, who creates more chaos than Lane Kiffin? Yeah. Right. So if anybody's going to be able to thrive in that type of environment right now, it's that man. So I think they got their guy. I think Chesney at UCLA, I think he's a really great coach to be able to have Curt Cignetti leave JMU, take all of his players, and essentially transplant that program to Bloomington, Indiana, and to be able to rebuild that and go. I think they went 9-3, and they're playing for opportunity to get into the college football playoff, which Curt Cignetti never did at JMU. I think that tells me he's a great evaluator of talent in a quick moment. And he can kind of make, chicken soup out of chicken, what. And that's what you have to do at UCLA right now, because it's arguably the third best program in the state right now. So I think, you're going to have now, mind you, it's a talent-rich state, so
Mhm.
you can stay within the borders of California and be just fine, but you've got to be able to have an edge. I Some of the stuff doesn't really do much for me like it does for other people. I think
Yeah.
Summerall at Florida is Billy, you know, Billy Napier 2.0. It's the exact same formula. So um, I don't know how much you can kind of repeat the same things and expect a different result. I think
Insanity.
insanity.
Mhm.
I think one thing that is jumping out that will time will tell is I'm not surprised by Fitzgerald staying in conference. Honestly,
Mhm.
like you know, when you're unceremoniously let go from somewhere, I
It was
think
a nasty divorce.
I
Yeah.
think at least me can't speak for everybody else. At
Yeah,
least
yeah,
for
yeah.
me, if I can succeed and jab,
Stick it to him.
take a dig at where I came from, I will.
Yeah.
So I think it was a lot of that. I think it was Michigan State. I think that it had to have been working behind the scenes because Fitzgerald's name never even, you know, I
Yeah.
really heard coming up
Yeah.
anywhere. He was kind of in that coach's graveyard. So I think they saw an opportunity to get their man and went and got him. Only concern is, you know, in this new world of NIL, Michigan State is a step up from Northwestern.
Mhm.
They expect to be able to play with and beat Michigan.
Mhm.
They've done it.
Then oh,
They've
yeah,
done it,
exactly.
and
Took
they've
the
done
words
it
out of my
quite a
mouth.
bit, you know.
Yeah.
So that's a true rivalry. We'll talk about the overuse of a word rivalry a little later.
Mhm.
Um,
Ooh.
but that's a true rivalry when you look at the numbers, and it tells you so. So I'll reserve judgment on that because I want to see how he plays in this new world. NIL wasn't a thing when he was at Northwestern, and Northwestern doesn't compete in that space anyway.
Mhm.
So can he take, you know, a fledgling program and build a true organization and win some games?
Yeah, well said,
We'll see.
and I agree. It's the same thing. I think it's interesting to talk about, you know, the movement and who gets opportunities, who, but it really only matters if that's your program. You know, it
Yep.
really only really matters, or if there's someone you know personally, and you're like, oh yeah, you know, let's go, or you've worked with someone
Yeah.
previously. So yeah, so that thing continues to spin. There'll be a couple more, not confirmed, but one of the bigger news releases was Coach Coach Kleinman at K-State, you know, announces retirement, and the word is that Colin Klein will go back to his alma mater and become the head coach. I don't know, that's not confirmed, but that's
It's
the
my
rumor.
understanding it's
Yeah,
done.
yeah. I mean, you've seen things that they had a players only meeting, and somebody's videotaping the K-State players coming out, and it was Coach Kleinman kind of breaking it to his kids and this and that, and that would have been the only way, because the first thing I saw about that was, you know, Kleinman, their names are so similar.
Colin Klein.
Colin Klein to K-State. I'm like, well, what's Coach Kleinman gonna do? You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
retirement. I mean, I didn't think he was old enough to
Well,
retire.
because
But
Colin Klein was supposed to get the USF job.
yeah, yeah.
That
So
was allegedly what was happening, and I believe, and I always have great respect for guys that do things the right way. And
mhm,
for me, the right way is when I put the program above
mhm,
self.
mhm.
And I believe that Coach Kleinman had a direct say in that. Of,
Yeah.
you know, hey, right now it's a good time to go.
Mhm.
Excuse
Bless
me.
you. Yep.
We can bring the prodigal son home,
Mhm.
and give him an opportunity to do some things and leave him a stable footing, not put the program at, you know, at risk by having to fire me and pay me a bunch of money and
Mhm.
all this. So I think a lot of those things tied into one another,
Yeah.
that you know, it was the right time and it was the right person behind him, which is why it worked out so fast the way that it did. So I always get excited for the storylines in sports, and you know, the prodigal son returning home is always
Mhm. Oh
a
yeah.
compelling story, no matter which way it shakes out.
Yeah, and I'll give it to those guys in the Little Apple over there in Manhattan. They do. I mean, they keep it in the family, and you know, because Coach Kleiman had such, you know, he had success there. He almost had a Bill Snyder-ish type influence on
Yeah.
the say of who, you know, we've seen in other programs,
Won a
but
Big 12
yeah,
title.
yes,
He did as good as anybody
oh yeah,
can do at a place like Kansas State, being the guy after the guy.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That,
Nobody wants that
that
job. Nobody
nobody
wants
wants
that
that
job.
job. That's just a
Yeah.
really, really hard thing to do. We'll
Mm-hmm.
see what Kalen DeBoer does, in the SEC title game coming up, what he does subsequently if they get in the playoffs. So,
At,
being
at least he's
being the
keeping them
guy,
happy right now. He's keeping them happy because they're in the game. They're
right? Being well, and there was a lot of smoke around had they lost the Iron Bowl. Is there a knee-jerk reaction? And he darts off to Penn State, which was there was a lot there was quite a bit of smoke around that. I didn't buy it because it's not there's no relief there. There's no
mm-hmm.
step up there.
Yeah.
But he's
Definitely no
accustomed
relief.
to, but he's accustomed to
Mm.
going to Penn State, competing with the likes of Michigan, with Oregon,
Ohio State.
Ohio State, now with Indiana. Like that is there's no different than
Yeah, no,
being at Alabama, competing with Georgia, Texas, right? A&M. Like there is no difference in that. So I could have seen it from that standpoint. Fans obviously probably a lot more grateful would be a lot more grateful to have him in Happy Valley than I think where they are in Tuscaloosa, especially if Saturday goes how most people think Saturday is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I say, it rolls, and happy for all those guys, and like I say, I think he'll do it. I'm telling you, nobody knows, but Eric and I, after the Texas A&M game, were stuck in the parking garage, standstill for at least a good hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Colin Klein walk right by our car. He like, no, why wouldn't he? But it was coming off of Thanksgiving, and who knows what discussions had went. But I'm not a fool. I know what it looks like. And he was going with his family. Maybe they were going to fly a different flight to go home or drive somewhere else or whatever. Maybe he was going to Manhattan that night. But I did see him and some other A&M coaches in the parking garage. We were there long enough. But yeah, so as we roll on, man, let's go to
that's funny.
What you're mad about. And I'll go first because obviously I got my black Kansas hoodie on. Signifies the death of our season. I'm still true and true blue Rock Chalk Jayhawk. I hate the way our season ended. I'll get into a little more detail when we talk about the recap. But I am I'm mad about our season being over because we had the team to good enough to go get ready to see what the bowl we'd be playing in, and we underachieved yet again for the second year in a row. And that's not a knock on the staff or the players. That's just what it is. You've got the potential. Expectations have been created. I'm not going to be the dead horse and keep saying the same thing. So that's what I'm mad about. But the Cowboys made it better, won it on Thanksgiving, and Philly lost again. So thank you, God. So what are you mad about, E?
I'm mad that we got bamboozled into believing that the college football playoff committee would be any different than the BCS. They would be any different than what we had, what we could have done. We could have literally expanded the college football playoff, kept the BCS system, and gotten to the exact same results. Just about. I think 2 years ago when the 12 or last year, there might have just been some jostling in the position, but we would have got the same teams, we would have got the exact same results. So I'm mad that they wove this great fairy tale of we're actually going to put people in the room to make human decisions that computers can't see, and literally it's the same thing. We're worried about win-loss records. We're not applying an accurate standard to head-to-head. We're not applying accurate standards of, well, how did this team who beat that team perform against common? Like, we're not looking at all of the things that it was, in my opinion, designed to do.
What the criteria was set.
What the criteria is. Furthermore, it's a different standard every week, right? Where, okay, head-to-head, Texas versus Vandy was good enough to put Texas versus Vandy, but head-to-head, Miami versus Notre Dame still doesn't matter because there's one team in between them, right? Like that's one of those things. And we spent a lot of this week talking about, will teams, mainly Texas, because I think Sark in his weekly rounds of politicking, which is what you have to do in today's world, apparently, in his weekly round of politicking, alluded to teams are going to cancel these big out of conference games because there's no value in it. And I think a better case than Texas versus Ohio State is Miami versus Notre Dame. Miami also chose to play that big out of conference game, and they won. And it still hasn't helped them. So it's even clearer to me when you apply that to it as well, that these games are not worth it. They hurt you far more than they could help you, because we see that they don't help you when the team actually goes on to win, a la Miami. Records are the same, 10-2. And then if you drop that game, then it's a drag on your record because you're 9-3, right? So yeah, I have no interest. I have no interest in playing these games. I have no interest because you're gonna play them in the playoffs anyway. And with 12 teams, there's not a whole lot of opportunity to duck. What was happening is in the 2-team BCS system, you had teams that were ducking each other. Then you kind of got rid of it a little bit when you went to 4 teams. But when the 12-team playoff, there's no real opportunity to duck a good team and still win a national title. Just isn't, right? So I'm okay with not playing these big out of conference matchups. I hate it that, and I do too. I'm really mad and pissed about it that I thought the game, at least in that aspect, was trending in the right direction, led by the SEC, where they said not only are we going to go to a 9-game conference schedule, we're also going to mandate that every team has to play a Power 4 opponent every year. And now we've done that, and we're seeing, well, okay, what's the point? What's the value in it? There is no value in it. So now SEC's got to change that rule. Everybody's going to dump their big games unless it's a rivalry game, right? Georgia will probably still keep Georgia Tech. Florida will probably still keep FSU, right? Those Clemson, South Carolina, those games will remain, and we'll get a little taste of it from that aspect. But other than that, for what? So I think that's been the frustrating part when we look at this. We're just not getting the desired result that I think most college football fans expected when we said we were going to start putting humans in the room.
Yeah, and I agree. I give you a hard time about that, for ironically being a big issue for the Texas's case, because they did play Ohio State, who was the number 1 team in the nation. But even as a fan, that would piss me off as a fan, because let's just say, just hypothetically, Indiana is the number 1 team preseason next season, and Notre Dame or Miami's number 1 team, and they're slated to play. They're out of conference, but that is the big kickoff to kick off the 2026 season. And they say, you know what? No, now we're not going to do it because of the ramifications or repercussions of what could happen to whoever loses that game, or whoever plays it close, or whoever, whatever. And I think when teams do that of that caliber or that good play each other, like I said, that margin of error, because they may go on respectively and run the table the rest of their schedule, but now that's the one thing that may keep one in and one out, so I agree that has to be revised or revisited in that situation, the criteria. But that is a great segue into the latest college football playoff top 25. Eric doesn't want to look at it because he already knows.
I know what it is.
We talked about it last night, but obviously Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, no big surprise there. With A&M kind of pissing down both legs, now Oregon bumps, Ole Miss bumps, but A&M at 7, which is, they're 3 last week. So 3-7 is not too bad. Oklahoma, Alabama, Notre Dame.
We went on the road and lost double-digit. Like, they can complain and whine, but they're actually benefiting from the standard not being the same.
Yeah. Well, they're ultimately.
Or 3 weeks ago, Texas goes on the road, gets dominated in the 4th quarter by Georgia. They drop 6 spots. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Texas A&M goes on the road, gets dominated by Texas in the second half. They only drop 4 spots. Right? So there's no logic here. There's no and I think what we could appreciate with the BCS is you could look ahead. I could literally plug in, if this, then what, right? So there was a level of predictability to it, and I think that did bring some people some comfort because you could apply a logic and at least know why and how you got where you got to. This committee is like it does nothing for us. And I don't know if it's a mix of we don't have the right people in the room, or are we not looking at the right things, or are we, are we looking at different things from week to week? I don't know quite what the problem is, which is why I think you're probably getting close to scrapping the whole damn thing, because at least if I knew the problem, like, okay, we can institute a fix, but okay, lack of transparency. So how do we become more transparent? We say, which we've already done, this is the criteria. Now look at this,
But they're not
But,
following the
but when
criteria.
you look at this, and this, objectively, not taking off my burnt orange, taking off your blue, like when you objectively look at these things, you're not getting to the same conclusion. Yeah. So I think that goes from, again, I wish, and I think the ACC opened up a can of worms and gave everybody a bunch of problems by introducing more transparency into the game, by letting us hear what are they talking about during replay and whatnot. Because now I want that everywhere. What the hell are they talking about in this room?
Yeah.
What are the conversations when they're comparing this team to that team? Like, what actually is happening and being said? So I think, we just are doing a disservice to the game. And this year's an anomaly. How many years will you have a team that gets 3 top 10 victories and all that and be on the outside looking in? Probably not that often, if I'm being honest. Yeah. Right. So will the system work more often than not as is? Probably. But how many times are we going to get it wrong?
Yeah. And you said it, because if you just, and I don't want to be the one to always pick at what's wrong, but when the BCS was here, the complaint was computers don't know. So, okay, now let's put the committee together, but still, no matter what, we're all human. So there's going to be human error in it. So you fix that, have a strict level of criteria or those things laid out, and you follow it. Take out the names, but just see what Team A and Team B did. What's their record? What's their strength record? What did they do? And they fall into these spots, so you don't have to worry about potential complaints of SEC bias or independent Notre Dame kind of getting their way in the easy way. Like,
boy, they got it made in the shade right now. They got it made in the shade right now.
Yeah, and that lends to what you talk about in as far as transparency. So everybody's gonna know, oh, this is what the criteria is, this is what happened, and that's what it is. And I guess some of the things, like as far as golly, within a 48-hour, 72-hour window, Ole Miss was dead in the water because they had lost more than half of their staff. But then you see, okay, they've got their defensive staff, obviously their new head coach is the defensive coordinator, but then Charlie Weiss Jr. goes back and is able to coach in that bowl game. So now, golly, they've got their staff kind of put together, and there's still some familiarity within that, and those kids aren't just left out to dry, because it potentially could have led to them getting embarrassed in the college football playoff. But like I say, teams like Ole Miss, A&M, and
we don't care about that. We don't care about that, because we're about to put JMU in against probably the loser of the Big Ten or
probably Indiana, SEC, very good,
or SEC title game.
Yeah,
and they're gonna get kicked out of them. But we're gonna stand up and say, whoop-de-doo, we gave them a chance.
Yeah,
to tell a good story that college football is 10 years away from. We are 10 years away from, if ever, right? JMU being able to compete with the likes of
Ohio State. Just say it.
They can play a pool of Texas Tech, Texas Tech, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Indiana. They'll play one of those 5 teams. We are light years away from that. And that's actually not even the goal of the sport. Like the goal is not for parity to filter all the way down to the group of 5. That's not, nobody's pursuing that goal.
Yeah.
Unless they're an AD at a group of 5 school, right? The goal was to get parity spread out a little bit more amongst the Power 4. And we're seeing, even within that, that's not even spread into all conferences.
Yeah.
Right now, the parity, we're only seeing the parity expand in the SEC. We're seeing it expand in the Big Ten. That's it.
Yeah.
So next we'll work on how do we expand it in the Big 12? How do we expand it in the ACC? Then maybe in 2045 we'll be there and we'll say, okay, now how can we expand it to the group of five? And you're only putting them further and further behind the eight ball, because if I'm a local Texas kid that couldn't get to Texas and couldn't get to A&M, couldn't get to SMU, couldn't get to Texas Tech, and okay, now I'm looking at, okay, I don't really want to go to Oklahoma State, because if I couldn't get in none of those four, I can't get into Oklahoma either. So I don't really want to go to rebuilding Oklahoma State, or if Oklahoma State's good, I'm not good enough to go there. So now I'm looking at my options, and do I want to go now ride the bench at one of these schools at an SMU where I could have a chance to play in 2 or 3 years? Or do I want to go play right away at a North Texas just to say I played? And but constantly I'm looking at these teams go compete with every year these Power 4 schools and get the ever loving out of them, right? I don't want to go there either. So you're doing a disservice to the group of five, because you're going to take away more and more opportunities from them for kids that could change the program. Now, on the flip side, someone would argue, well, we're giving them more money, right? Because if you make the playoffs, you're getting a hell of a payday. Granted,
And that,
I hear
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But that money only goes so far if you're not really giving me a chance to win.
Yeah, exactly. And then like I say, then I don't want to say disloyalty or just, I mean, then you're gonna jump ship, take the money and run, and you're jumping, and it just becomes
And what good is that done?
a
Now
show.
you've turned the group of five into a developmental league. That's not helpful.
Exactly. And it really,
because they never get the payoff. The payoff is in 3 years.
Yeah,
And those kids are juniors and seniors. When just like the JMU team that put on Indiana jerseys, right? That was the payoff. Those kids were in those payoffs.
But they were like I said, they were developed with
They were
with that
developed.
staff and all that.
Now
And
let's see what happens when all these kids that are new to JMU, when they go compete in the first round of the playoffs on the road, by the way, in a stadium that's 3 times the size of anything they've ever played in, against the caliber of athlete they haven't seen since ever, probably, a lot of these kids. You're just doing them a disservice. You're putting them, you're making them bait when, and it doesn't help the game, in my opinion.
And it screws the high school kids. But I don't want to go into a whole recruiting thing. It becomes like, say, NFL developmental low level. We're trading players. This player was on this team, now he's traded to, so hopefully that all gets resolved. And it's just, I don't know, but we're gonna move on, because we could talk. This could be an episode by itself. And I just caught a cramp in my hamstring, boy. I did legs today. I ain't worked out since the day before Thanksgiving. I just caught a cramp. Whoa. That's real life. Hold up. Oh my gosh. Whoa. I gotta watch my movements. I'm drinking water. Sorry about that. Oh, Jesus. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. That was a real reaction. That was nothing for fun or comedy. That hurt like hell. Jesus. Today was a leg day. Anyway, so that must be God telling me move on. And it's not like I'm moving on to anything more pleasant. All right. This past Black Friday, if you will, I hate to say that, but black sometimes signifies death for some people out there. And it was the death of our season. And Utah came, number 13 ranked Utah came to Lawrence. And
I was hoping that was vodka, but no, it's just water.
I'm going to tell you, man, our guys showed up. Kansas loses 31-21 on senior day in Lawrence. Jalen Daniels' final game, a lot of, at first we was hoping maybe just the final game in the booth, but final game of the season. Utah scored 21 fourth quarter points to come back. And, and a lot of those was attributed to a 97-yard pick six.
Okay.
2 more interceptions, if you will. Despite that, Kansas outgained Utah, 477 total yards versus 414. Not a big discrepancy, but they almost had 300 yards rushing on the ground. So you can produce, you can gain those yards and you can execute, but you can't finish, and that's what it's telling us. We threw 2 red zone interceptions, and both were, you know what, all 3. One was thrown on what I call a slip play, was real popular these days, where um, the third receiver or the inside receiver runs a flat behind the line of scrimmage. The receivers are able to go block right off the snap. Well, the corner is a little bit off. He's squatting, looking at Jalen, and the receiver's not even looking for the ball. Throws it. That's the 97-yard pick. We're in the red zone again. Daniels has to scramble, and of course, the right thought was throw it away. You could have threw it to the sideline. He tries to throw it out of the back of the end zone, throws it short. The interception was so bad that the kid from Utah was surprised that he even threw it. He intercepted the ball, and he's holding his hands up like he can't believe it. It was a gift. Christmas came early for him. And then how many was that? Is that the third one? Was that all 3? I can't think. Yeah, he had one. No, yeah, and then he throws another one almost off the same play in the same side of the field, and that corner is squatting again, and he's looking right at the quarterback, and he just jumps in front of the receiver. So, that came down to the decision making. I hate that Jalen had to go out like that, 3 interceptions, but the team had nearly 500 yards of total offense, and defense did a good job, but you could only hold them for so long. This is one of the interceptions right here. It's just, I know he's on the run, but just throw it out of bounds. You got to throw it out the back of the end zone. This kid's kind of like, like Jesus. But anyway, bowl berth obviously gone. It was a competitive showing, but it doesn't matter. It also tells you that the gap between yardage gain and points scored is now harder to ignore, at least with the Kansas offense. You've been with me this whole season. We put up numbers. We've held time possession, but we can't score. We can't finish, I don't know. Obviously, there's some needed improvement in the decision-making from my quarterback. I'm not gonna stomp on the kid because Jalen Daniels is the reason, or a big part of the reason why Kansas football is being talked about in more rooms and more podcasts on ESPN, game days, all that stuff that they did in his last 6 years at Kansas. But he is a main reason, for that turnaround. So I'm not going to sit here and bash the kid. But when you're being coached or you're playing a competitive sport where they keep score, you've got to be accountable for the things that you do. So, I'm not gonna harp on it. I put right here. The reality is yardage and effort don't equal wins. So that is what it is. Moving forward, Isaiah Marshall is up now. That is the projected guy. I'm not in Lawrence. We got Ballard there. We got quarterbacks. A lot of kids are there to compete. Nothing is handed to no one. Okay.
You got the portal too. Like there's nothing set in stone anymore.
Exactly. And agreed. So there's 3 things, and I'm gonna let it go. There's 3 things, 3 scenarios that I think we talked about it. We talked about where is Kansas as a program. We talked about team on the rise. Have they peaked? Are they regressing? Have they, are they starting to go in the opposite direction? So to get better, quarterback plays got to improve. We've got to get our O-line going. We have got to have a more stable run identity. I thought in the past years where we were successful when playing in bowl games, we ran the ball well. We had 2 capable and able and good running backs, man. I'm going to do a separate show on Daniel Highshaw because he's got to have the best break tackle ability grade in all the FBS. I mean, this kid runs angry and hard. We've got to get into the portal, especially in the defensive side of the ball.
Jeremiah Love and Hardy.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about like break tackles. This guy making people miss and break tackle. It could be 2 different things. You talking about the potential Heisman Trophy winner, in my opinion, too. Jeremiah Love is. Anyway, okay. But yeah, so we there'll probably be some staff movement. That's just the way it is. Natural attrition. That is the job that comes.
Not for like promotions though, right?
No, not movement. Moving on. Guys coming in. So that's just me. I'm not Lance Leipold. I don't know. I'm not Travis, but I just think we got to get in the portal defensively and offensively. Obviously, but offensively, I'm really focusing on just us being able to establish a run game because right now our quarterback, even Ballard, they're both run dual threat guys. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, they're not pocket passers. They're dual threat guys. So, you've got to cater your offense or cater your roster to what that guy does well and to what the system that you run. So it's not hard, you know. I mean, we'll see. I don't know if we just stay the same. Improvements in what I just talked about is just marginally improved. Maybe we get a little better in the red zone, hopefully, prayerfully. Um, we we've got to get stops and turnovers. We can't just continue to be the defense that bends but doesn't break, because a lot of those bends are threes,
Yeah.
threes, and after, you know, there's gonna be a break, you know. So you can't live like that. And offense needs to finish drives, not just pull out yardage for, you know, stat reasons. You know, Utah was a top 15 defense, and we almost put up 500 yards of total offense on them. So, you know, it is now. If we don't get none of those things addressed, if we don't get those things fixed, what's going to happen? Same OKU. Quarterback concerns, our identity becomes unclear, because we're starting to lose our identity anyway right now. And I'm not getting on Coach Z. I'm not saying, oh, we need Kolanecki back. I'm just saying we're starting to lose our identity because we really don't know who we want to be. Had some injuries at the tight end position that hurt us. Had some inexperience at receiver. Obviously, we had to replace 3 big-time guys. I thought Emmanuel Henderson was great for us. We got to address the red zone issues. I didn't watch the early signing period show, so I'm not gonna speak on recruiting, you know, how we did there, but we've got to get into the portal. I'm not a big portal guy, but we've got to get into the portal. I am still up on us. I'm not like worried that, oh, we're gonna be sorry as hell. People that watch KU football seen Isaiah Marshall, and he's a little bigger than Jalen, you know, stature wise, body type, but he gets it done. So haven't seen him had a chance to really drop back and throw, make reads in high pressure decisions. He's been more just QB run game type stuff, just to take some pressure and hits off of Jalen this past season. So we'll see, man. 5-7 though, back to back bowl games, or not going to a bowl where you were back to back bowl games, Liberty Bowl, and I forgot what the bowl was in Vegas that they played against UNLV. But oh man, it hurts, and I hate it, because I want the best for my school. And
do you have anything to hold on to that gives you hope? Why next year will be different?
You know, the gospel song, it says, if you did it before, he could do it again. that is, because they've got some shuffling to do. And like you said, with the portal, there's nothing that says these are the guys we have to develop. And Kansas is in that realm of developing guys. We've got some of those players that walk in year one, you won't really see the payoff until end of year 2, going into year 3. So we've got to be realistic about that. But we can also get some big gets. We can also, you know, shop around our facilities and show that there's potential for there's an opportunity here. And you've got something to stand on as far as, you know, a 9-win season and bowl, you know, appearances more recently than you had in the past. So, you know, if the staff did it before, they could do it again. So I believe in those guys, and I'm 100%, you know, all in now. I need some time to cool off. I don't need to see no more of what could have been, what should have been. You know, I'm just going to enjoy the conference championships and the college football playoff, man. So that is it. It's put the rest. I don't know if I want to talk about them again, but that's that. Moving on. We did. It was great. Even made a video on the podcast page. Go check it out. Lone Star Shootout. Texas A&M, 6:30. Friday. Was it Friday night? Yeah, Friday night. DKR.
Also Black Friday.
Yeah, also Black Friday. Yeah, mine's ended at 11 o'clock after the 11 o'clock game. So I definitely was going in hoping that everybody lost. I didn't want nobody. I hope they both, you know, lost. I didn't want either team to win, but, you know, somebody had to win. And let's talk about it, E. What did you think?
We did what I knew we were capable of doing. I won't sit here and say, oh, we did what I knew we would do. No, I didn't know who would show up. There were a couple of key stats from the game. Now, had you told me these 2 key stats beforehand, I could have very well predicted this outcome. If you had told me Texas was going to win the turnover battle 2-0, I would tell you I feel very good about a win. If you would have told me we were going to rush for 218 yards on the ground, I would have told you we were going to win, because those are just 2 of the key things that have plagued Texas. I think A&M had one more penalty than we did. I probably could have read the tea leaves and told you we'd win that one. No special teams mistakes. That includes no missed field goals. No, I think there was one bigger return from Concepcion than we would have wanted, but nothing explosive. I don't even think
and it even had a blocked field goal too.
Yeah, but we had a blocked field goal. So we played a relatively clean game. We still had 7 penalties. So it wasn't perfect, but we played a relatively clean game. And you could tell that Sark still has these guys bought in. And I thought this was probably his Kirby Smart game, what I talked about when we went and played at Georgia, where Kirby got everybody to play at a level above where they had been all year. And I thought, when I look at our offensive line, when I look at our rushing attack, it was the best it's been all year, right? When I look at our defense being able to contain a running quarterback, limit explosive plays, we were as best as we've been all year. When I look at us being able to play action pass, attack down the field, we were as good as we've been all year. So he really got these guys to play above and beyond where they had been. So that's a sign of, it doesn't wash away not making the playoffs. It doesn't wash away what happened at Georgia, but it tells me that I still feel really good about the guy that we got and his ability to develop. Right, because we don't talk about that enough. Where Texas was at the beginning of the year and where they were at the end of the year. You watched the first game with me. You watched the last game with me. Those two teams wouldn't even,
especially at the quarterback position.
Those two teams wouldn't even be on the same field. Yeah, right. So it tells me that all is not lost. We've got a very minuscule 0.0012% chance of,
but there's still hope. That's what you're saying. There's a chance.
I think this just to paint the picture, right? I think the scenario is all the conference favorites have to win in a blowout fashion. If Ohio State blows out Indiana, which is very doable, I borderline will predict that. If Texas Tech blows out BYU, which they've done before. I think it gets dicey because you do need Georgia to really put it to Alabama.
Which is possible. It's possible,
but you need some help in that aspect, because if Georgia comes to play and Alabama comes to play, it won't be a blowout. Exactly. One team will win. Agree. You won't get the differentiation that you need. Now, I do think the fact that Bama beat them early in the year, I do think there's a revenge factor, and I do think there's Kirby's still trying to play for the best seed possible. So that is the good thing about the playoffs. It gives us these games, and it gives us an opportunity to, allow folks to come in and really care and really compete. And for whatever reason, the SEC title, maybe because I'm in SEC country, I hear about how much it means to these programs, because I think one of the questions floating around was, well, would you rather go play in that conference championship game or miss it and be the 5 seed? Right, and go play a cupcake, which is at home, which is essentially a bye.
Oh, I know the answer.
And pretty much everybody, with the exception of my friend Blake, shout out to Blake.
Angry man, I love Blake.
Everybody's like, let's go get this chip. Let's go get this trophy, because the greatest teams in the history of this conference all have come away with that trophy. So it matters.
Yeah, well, that's and you're exactly right and spot on. And I don't know what it is about DKR. I felt that just like Vanderbilt, either Texas is that good, or the effect and the atmosphere and environment of DKR is that intimidating, or they're not who we thought they were. Because watching Vanderbilt, Texas, in my opinion, borderline dominated them, and that wasn't the Vanderbilt I saw on TV. Just like the 11-0. Texas A&M Aggies I saw on TV all year, and when I saw them in person, they didn't show up. I don't know. I don't know.
This is the Texas. I think Texas was different. Vanderbilt, I'll give you that. Right, like the Vanderbilt that went to Neyland this Saturday was was a good bunch.
Yeah.
But especially in that second half, that was the Texas A&M that played in the first half of South Carolina, where
Yeah.
they couldn't move the ball, where they couldn't stop anybody, where they were turning it over. That was the Texas A&M that we saw. The difference is we weren't South Carolina, right? You do those things, and this is anybody, right? Texas, same way. We went to Georgia, and some of our weaknesses got exposed that we were still able to sneak out of Starkville, sneak out of Lexington with the dub. The difference wasn't Texas was a whole lot different. The difference was the opponent was different. And Georgia made those things hurt. And I think we did the same thing on Saturday, where A&M was who they have been in the past. The opponent was just different. Now, I will say, and I'll be curious what Donnie thinks. I'm not going to let him talk a whole lot, but
No.
uh,
he didn't. He don't deserve to. He doesn't deserve to.
I won't let him talk a whole lot, but I will be curious to someone who's been in DKR 15 years ago, been in DKR today, or Saturday or Friday. Texas fans used to be referred to as like a wine and cheese crowd. You know what I mean? It was very Hasidic, and we'll watch the game because we're here. We're not invested. We're not loud. We're not rowdy. And I think anybody that had that perception and hadn't been to DKR, I heard it from Arkansas fans a ton, had that perception of DKR and hadn't been in a while. They're like, this is an SEC home field advantage, and this is I think Texas has lost one game at home in the last 3 years.
Yeah, and not being a fan of either one.
Two, if you go back 4.
Yeah, I will say that atmosphere is special, and it's a big risk. You got all these theatrics and all this stuff set up. You got to be winning. If you're getting beat 35-0 going into the fourth quarter,
not fun.
I don't know what that drone show and that Texas song is like.
It gets on your nerve. Just like I think we were down 10-3 when they were doing the sing along, the Mariah Carey sing along. I don't want to lie for Christmas.
Yeah.
They had panned the camera to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hear this right now. Like,
I was looking around, for our life.
For our life right now. But it becomes a huge advantage, I think. And I think when you start writing down, I think we've talked about this before, but I know I've talked about it with another football coach, is when you talk about all the things that you think about and scout for in a football game, you want to know where the sun is going to be at a certain time. You want to know where the wind speed is going to be, all these things that affect the game. I think one of the things as teams start to come back to DKR that will eventually make its way to the sheet is, okay, we've got to be ready for that uptick between the third and fourth quarter. I told you, we were watching the game and I said we had that big reception from the tight end from injuries that went down, and we had, I think it was like 27 seconds left on the clock when they got up. I said don't score. I said I bet they won't run a play here because the crowd was hyped from that.
That was a perfect segue. It was
perfect segue.
I
said it's hyped from that. I said we're going to go through the whole shebang between the third and the fourth quarter. You come out here and score again to start the fourth quarter, which takes the lead to 10. I said, you probably have thrown a really solid punch.
Yeah, it was perfect. I hate to say it was perfect. The game, the atmosphere, the whole thing. Hold up, I think we've got a special guest.
My friend, my buddy.
If you were here last week, buddy of mine from my hometown, Donnie Mathis, who's a diehard Texas A&M Aggie. Was feeling good, riding high, got him on. Him and Eric had talked briefly back and forth over the last two, not this season, but even last season, he would hit me up, man, your friend is Texas think they can't do no wrong. So of course, the Aggie hate, which I love it all. And so I said, let's get on for it. So they both made some pretty bold predictions and some big cheese talk, and there was a little wager made. And as they say, when you go to the casinos, cashing in. So Eric's getting the cash in. So he's about to get on. I see his name then popped up. I got to get him on the screen so he could come in. I don't know if he changed his mind at the last minute. Here we go. So welcome back into the building, my friend Donnie Mathis. A&M extraordinaire. Are you on mute? See if your microphone is not muted. We can't hear you.
Can y'all hear me?
Now
I
we
can
can
hear
hear
you
you.
now.
Now we can hear.
I couldn't hear you much on Friday either. But this counts.
I'll go ahead and turn the lights on for you.
Hey, y'all, ladies and gentlemen, Donnie sent me about 10 text messages during the game, and I think only one was worthy of repeating on this show. And it's like, oh, this atmosphere is not bad, but after that, he was ready to throw down, pull people out the stands, show them why he's from Killeen, and this and this and that. What's going on, Donnie? Glad you're back, man. Good to have you back, man.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. It's been, it was a rough Friday, but I had to come back and take it, man. I talked all that noise. I had to come back and answer for it.
Boy,
Hey,
well,
you know what? I appreciate it, Don. It takes because you wouldn't have been able, you might not have been able to find me. I don't know.
But and before we start this, we always do it, but we had to have you on here, so we're gonna pay homage and have to let you endure this. We always play that after a Texas win. I'm not gonna drag it out.
I stole this from my 7-year-old just for tonight.
So y'all got about 5 to 10 minutes. I'm gonna let y'all have it. Eric,
I'm gonna let I am genuinely curious. We didn't get to talk a whole lot after the game.
Oh God,
I think he was exhausted. But I am genuinely curious. Atmosphere, game, sort of. What was it like? Did it meet and exceed expectations? Not your play. I get that part.
Yeah.
But just the game, the atmosphere, and all the things that went into it.
Yeah. I will say that, after a few days of calming down, because
I feel you.
Oh boy, right after, man, I was trying everything I could to get to the buses to go, see our team off and without going to jail. Because it was rough coming out of DKR. But I will say that's not an indictment on the fan base as a whole. And it's a rivalry game. If you're going to talk it, you got to expect it. And when you go to their house and, quite frankly, you get whipped in the second quarter, like they have every right to talk. So I will say that environment and all of that, I felt like it was it was in the upper echelon of environments. I don't know if it was the corner that we were in because it was because we had seats up. We went down a few times, but we had seats on the goal line.
Were you where the band was? Were you where the Aggie
on the
band
other
was?
side?
Okay.
Yeah, and it just I think it was that corner because that corner is kind of open with the new. It wasn't as loud as what I had anticipated. It was still loud. Don't get me wrong. It's not as loud as I had anticipated, but
not like Kyle Phil loud.
There's not many that
I agree with that.
There's not many that are. But we tailgated beforehand. We tailgated with some Texas fans, and we had a good time. They were good people, really hospitable, good. Fed us.
You ain't gotta be that nice, Donnie. You gotta be. I was sitting in the game.
I'm serious. Like, don't get me wrong. I didn't go back over there after the game because I didn't want to hear it. But no, it was a fun time. We had a blast. I will say having the opportunity to be down there, like, man, it was David, and Eric, you've been around it enough. Like, you see some of those guys and they're dudes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you get down on the field and you see them eye to eye, like, like eye to eye.
Yeah.
It was impressive. And I had a really good time. My wife had a good time. Other than the outcome, it was all good.
You're right.
Good. That's what I like to hear. I like to hear that, for the most part, I think there's an acceptable level of assholeness within the scope of fandom. Yeah. And then there's clearly over the line. And I always like to hear, and you, David, you've seen it. Like, I go to places and if we're around and they're opposing fans, like I will, let everybody have their fun. But like the minute I feel like we're overstepping, I'm like, hey guys, that's not us. Yeah. That's not who we are. That's not what I want us to be known for. And I thought we had a really good, I even told the gentleman.
Y'all are not Philadelphia Eagle fans, but go ahead. Yeah.
I even told the gentleman that
Friday night, I was like, Eagles, Texas fans. It's a draw. I needed to calm down. That was me. I was pissed.
I told the gentleman that walked by us, he left the game kind of early.
Yeah.
I even told him
on my Jordans.
Travel safe, man. Be safe.
That was a dig. That was a dig.
Get
That was
back
a
home
dig.
safely.
Yeah, you know it was.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what's crazy? And for as much as Texas A&M fans were wrong, they were right. They did predict that the stadium would clear early. Wrong on who would clear, but that was out there, and I thought again, I thought we rose to the occasion. And I was surprised. I won't, I'm not going to sit here and act like I predicted this, because I told David, my team has been Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, quite a bit this year. Yeah. So I didn't know who was going to show up. We talked about some key stats. If you had told me we were going to win the turnover battle 2-0, if you had told me we were going to get 218 yards on the ground, yeah, I would have known, probably what that outcome was going to be. But I have to I pride myself. I'm normally a numbers guy, and numbers really tell the story usually. And if I was true to that, this should have been predictable. It should have been, right? In the history of this rivalry, in this century, Texas is 11-3 versus Texas A&M.
You went back for that one.
If we look at the trajectory of the program,
19
right?
And 19 in the last 50 years. So
hey,
there we go. There we go.
We can take it wherever you want to take it.
I mean, we just pick arbitrary times. And
there we go. That's how Texas fans are.
We can go 100. We can go 50. We can go 25.
So who has the overall?
Texas has the overall by far. But
there is no multi-year period,
and they were dodging they were hanging out.
If we go 5 years or more, there is no multi-year period where A&M has the advantage over Texas head to head.
Yeah.
So I think that's where this rivalry goes into different, and I think it's why it doesn't get a lot of national respect. We don't play a ton of ranked games. We play quite a few, but in the scope of like Michigan, Ohio State, Texas, Oklahoma, there isn't enough of that comparative where
it's been away for a while though. That's why.
Yeah,
I think it'll gain the steam back. It's been away for a while.
I can't help that they ran away. That's not on me. That's on them. And I think in hindsight,
okay, Longhorn Network.
I think in hindsight, and even Aggies would agree with this. If you knew you were going to go on to have the 2010 to 2020, we turned it around probably in 2019. If you knew you were going to have the 2010 to 2018 that you were going to have, you'd have stayed.
2020, we won the Orange Bowl.
Huh?
2020.
Okay, so 2020. We'll go to 2020. That's fine. Yeah. So if you knew you were going to have that 10-year run that you had, you probably would have stayed. Agreed?
In the Big 12?
In the Big 12.
Oh, absolutely not.
So if you knew,
I don't think you have that. I don't think you have that run. A lot of the guys that we recruited, they came because we made the move to the SEC. It was SEC football.
Your best players you got because Texas didn't want them. Now, if we're going to be fair, we've got to be fair. Johnny, I can pull 100 clips where Johnny's going to tell you he wanted to come to Texas. Matt Brown wanted him to play safe.
He did.
Right.
But then when Texas tried to recruit him as a cornerback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're welcome. First of all, I don't hear enough gratitude. You're welcome. But no, I do think that in the grand scope of things, and maybe sometimes that happens in rivalries where some of the team's better years, maybe you don't get that matchup. But I think some of the telling stats, and we can go last 3 years, we can go last 5, however you want to slice it. Texas has the edge in wins, ranked wins, draft picks, All-Americans, times ranked in the AP top 25, times ranked in the top 10, and they're not particularly close. So I do think, and whatever we can do to help, A&M's going to have to do a better job of picking up their half of the rivalry. Because you got to put it on the field. And credit to them, like we talked about last week, I won't change, but the narrative on it, you only got the schedule you got, and you play who you play. But we've got to do a better job, because I do think, as someone who's watched this game, I do think it's worthy of rivalry status. We're just not doing a good job of both teams bringing their end of the deal.
It's only 2 years old though. It's only 2 years old.
Is it only 2 years old? So
you know what?
Don't count?
No. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I mean, college football was big. Let's not trivialize that. Whatever that word is. Trivialize. There you go. But I think from 2010 to like 2020, college. I mean, if you look at the amount of money that people started paying for TV rights, like it exploded.
Yep.
And the viewership, you watch the numbers, how much they've gone up exponentially. I think not having that rivalry from in that time period where it was exploding, I think that hurt it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but also I gotta agree. Like, I can't deny the fact, like, we haven't held up our end of the bargain. Like, bottom line, if you want to be the best team in the state, you got to beat the best team in the state.
Agreed.
And flat out, like, I love my boys. I'm going to ride with my boys, and I'll be at the playoff game. And
nice,
win, lose, or draw.
Eric's still waiting to see if he'll be at his.
You know what's funny. You know what's funny about that, and I will say
what I was getting at is, like, at the end of the day, we haven't done enough on our end to legitimize that rivalry on a national scale. In Texas, it's big,
it's natural.
A&M,
it's natural.
Now you got that pygmy thing out in Lubbock, but it's Texas and A&M, and it's father against son. Like, I know I went to fried turkeys on Thursday with a bunch of people from Killeen. We did like 19 turkeys, and 80% of them were Texas fans. We're outnumbered, but you know what? I'm gonna ride with my guys. I agree with Eric. I don't think on a national scale we've done enough to legitimize that.
And we've also got to extend it to other sports. I think that's where Texas and Oklahoma gets, and Ohio State, Michigan. That's where those things get a cut above the rest, because it is competitive, it is balanced, it matters in every single sport. And I think when it comes to Texas and Texas A&M, it matters because we want to beat them. We want to beat each other, but it very rarely has national implications, right? There was the small window where Texas A&M baseball and Texas, if they had played regularly, would have had national implications. They did a disservice to the sport of softball, because Texas and Texas A&M could have had national implications had they played this year. Basketball, I mean, they had some of their best basketball seasons in recent history, still couldn't beat Texas. Girls basketball hasn't been close. Volleyball, now I'll give them that. They stole one. They stole one this year. We got it back. We'll get it back again. But relentless. I think when we're looking at it,
he forgets we sent him home from the College World Series.
Say it again.
I said, I think he forgets we sent him home from the College World Series.
That was one of our worst teams in years. And how did we respond?
You stole their coach? Is that when y'all stole their coach?
Yes. Why? Because
any self-respecting Aggie knew he was gone. I didn't think he'd do it like that. But we all knew he was gone. When it comes to coaching, like that.
Money talks.
When it comes to they could have matched. They would have matched the money. They probably would have
money.
They probably would have paid a stupid amount that we weren't even willing to entertain.
Well, we've got another insider, Aggie insider, sells a relationship with the AD, not because Austin is just so much.
Every coach and every AD. Chris Del Conte's been around forever. He was at Rice for however many years. He was at
Slosh were
he was at TCU for over a decade. Years. Is that our fault that he has a relationship and is able to draw him to Austin? Or is it Trev Albert's fault that he didn't foster that relationship to keep him in College Station?
No.
Well, before we get too deep into all program, we're gonna get into two things, and I'm gonna let you go, Donnie, because I know Eric's going to watch the. Is it the men or the women?
The Texas men. Well, I'll be there and watch the women play North Carolina tomorrow as well.
Oh, but I got two questions. Yeah. I got what do you want first, Eric? Do you want to have your little party and talk about them? Because I've got a question for both of y'all, and I want to hear each side of it.
I'll end. I'll have the last word.
Okay.
I got one big boom on the way out.
Okay.
Deservedly so.
Yeah. Well, I built him up. Eric has been known for his trash talking. I built him up. Okay. First question to both of y'all. Donnie, how do you feel should know about Texas playoff chances or the potential of them sneaking in based off what happens this weekend on championship weekend? Do you think they should be a playoff team or no?
So I will say, and you're gonna like this is me.
No, say what you feel. I don't care. Say.
Look, when I look at it, everybody wants to talk about. You talk about the good losses like to Ohio State, but when you look at it, like I think Texas is playing the best football of the season right now. There's no question as far as their season goes.
Yeah,
but you still have to answer for the mistakes of the past, and you had to go to overtime with a Mississippi State team that was 0-15 going into that game in the SEC in the last couple of years. And then you had to go to OT in Lexington to escape there. So those aren't real strong games when you look at the metrics of that. And you lost to Florida, 4-8 Florida, and didn't just lose. Florida outgained you by over 100 yards. So it was, but at the end of the day, Texas is playing, I think playing wise, they're one of the 12 best teams in college football. And if we want to put the 12 best teams in, I think they have to be in. Do I think they'll get in? Absolutely not. I don't think they will. But they are playing the best. When you take the top 12 teams in the nation, they have to be in that conversation for what they've done the final weeks of the season.
Well said. Well said. I agree. That's a good take.
Not a lot to. Is this question the same for me?
Yeah, same for you. Of course, I'm gonna give you a chance to.
not a lot to disagree with there. I would just add color around. If we're going to make those things a part of the discussion, you have to look at the comparative properties of that. Have any other teams gone into Starkville and struggled? Have any other teams had to go down the wire to beat Mississippi State? Absolutely. Up until Vanderbilt kicked the shit out of them, Tennessee was ranked all year. They needed a final play to beat them. And they played a lot of other really good teams tough. They just couldn't get over the hump. David and I have talked about this. We were talking about it in relation to Kansas, but I think it absolutely applies to Mississippi State. I think teams, as they're growing as a program, they go through three phases. They start out new coach, they probably lose big a lot. Then that next year they lose quite a bit of games close. Then that following year they start to win games close. And then that next year is where they become and blossom into whatever they're going to be. We talk about the night game in Lexington. Fair point. Has that happened to anybody else? Has anybody else gone into Lexington at night and only beat them by 1 point? Georgia last year, right? Have these things happened before, or was it just Texas in a silo, right? Florida, absolutely fair point. What was going on? Was Texas down starters? Yeah, they were down 5. Did Florida have their head coach? Yes, they did. We can talk about it as long as we're objective and fair. We know, anybody who's been around the sport long enough to know, a team loses its head coach, it's going to go one of two ways. Very rarely, if ever, does that team just kind of stay steady. They either get a boost from it and they go way up, or they flop and they go way down. That's generally the two outcomes always. Florida flopped and went way down. That happens. So we have to own what they did with the rest of that. But within that, I think what the committee doesn't do a lot of, and I didn't talk about this earlier and I probably should have, is I think the value of having humans in the room is, I'm not big on transformative properties. Oh, this team beat this team, thereby they automatically beat that team. No, I don't buy that.
I agree. It's about matchups.
Yeah. But I do think there is valuable data in looking at common opponents. That same Florida team that beat Texas by 8, by the way, we say dominated, that's a bit crazy. But that same Florida team that beat Texas by possession on the road in a sold-out Gainesville went on to beat the hell out of a Florida State team that beat the hell out of Alabama, right?
I
So
knew that was coming.
it's not a straight line,
Mhm.
but damn, that's a decent data point to say. And I think again, the value of having coaches and having people in the room, you were supposed to be able to see that Florida's actually talent-wise, Florida's a top 15 talent, right? They weren't able to put it together. The coaching staff weren't able to put the right buttons, put the right combo on the field. But you lost to a team that had talent. That receiver that came, Dallas, whatever his last name was, that I had to have caught for like over 150 yards. He goes on to, he was hurt before that. Texas was his first game back, comes back for like $150 plus, gets hurt 2 games later, he's gone. Their quarterback dealt with injuries all year.
Yeah.
They switched their head coach, which was also their offensive play call. So it's a lot that can go into it. That's what that's what having actual bodies in the room instead of a fucking computer, that's what they were supposed to be for. Right. And again, I think you hit the nail on the head of who's playing the best football. And I also think the people in the room have to look, and if it's close, if it's a pick 'em, okay, cool. That's a fair point too. But we were supposed to sit up and look in a room and say, okay, if this team and this team played on a neutral field, and you've got coaches all up and down the room, guys that know ball that should be able to answer the fucking question. If this team and this team played on a neutral field, is the outcome likely to be close? Is it lopsided because one team is way better than the other? And you as an Aggie should be pissed about that because you wouldn't have dropped to 7th, right? If there were people in the room doing the job they were designed to do, because there's no world where you tell me Texas A&M and Texas Tech get on a neutral field and the game is close. I don't see it. You just can't convince me that that's the case.
Don't even get me started on the committee.
I think that's the only gripe I have. If we don't get in, we don't get in. We acknowledge that going to 9 games, you know as well as anybody, if you have a truly mixed schedule and you play enough good teams in the SEC, especially back-to-back, who gets buys, who doesn't, who's injured, who's not, the odds of you dropping a bad game in the SEC, if you look over the history of the SEC, is more likely than not. It's not even an anomaly. It is more likely than not that a good team is going to drop a game to a bad SEC team. So now you've got to go play the game and protect and go find insurance against that. So how does Texas go and give itself insurance against the Floridas of the future? I tell you how. We cancel that Ohio State game. We cancel that Michigan game. We cancel that Notre Dame game, and we go schedule Arizona State. We go schedule.
Hey, lay off the Big 12. Go talk about somebody else. I always want to take a shot at the Big 12.
We'll go schedule Illinois. We'll go schedule Syracuse.
There you go.
We'll, you know, Northwestern. They count. You know what I mean? You want a home and home? We'll go up there and play you. Who gives a because we know what is the outcome of that. And it's not a fair thing for the sport. It's not a fair thing for the fans as a season ticket holder. I'm very much looking forward to those games.
Yeah, cool down, Thanos. Cool down, Thanos. Why don't you go ahead and why don't you cash in on your bet?
Man, you know what?
He likes you too much, Dan. He likes you too much.
I agree with something a Texas fan just said for a change of my. I wholeheartedly agree. And like you were talking about, that's what Florida has talent, and you can drop one of those games. Well, the whole point is every team in the SEC has talent. That's why every game, and this is where. For the last 10 years, all I've heard from Texas fans up till 2 years ago, SEC's overrated. SEC's top heavy. It's not that great.
Because they weren't benefiting from it.
And then they come in and now they're learning.
I don't think you heard that from Texas fans. We was having a hard time beating TCU. We were having struggles of our own. So if you were hearing that from Texas fans, those were Texas fans that weren't tending to their own garden. Because we came from a conference prior to that last year. We had our own problems, and if you were struggling to beat, a Texas Tech or a Kansas, love you, David, right? If you were having those Kansas State, if you were having those struggles, There was no world where you were going to go beat Arkansas, beat a bad Florida, beat a bad Mississippi State. You weren't doing that shit anyway. So that was that wasn't a knower of ball. That was people not tending to their own garden. I think what now being in the SEC, I think we've got to acknowledge all schedules aren't created equal. Not everybody has a grind week in and week out. A&M didn't have a grind week in and week out. Did they have some teams that posed challenges to them in various ways for, small segments of a game? Sure, that's going to happen anywhere at any conference. But a grind when you play no team, I don't think we were the only team in the SEC you played with a winning record in the SEC.
Like y'all last year.
Not true.
Not true. Look at who y'all beat last year. Everybody's in the bottom half.
But that's again not true. Not true. We can look at we beat Oklahoma. I know for a fact Oklahoma wasn't in the bottom half.
That's probably the only one. That's probably the only one.
Kentucky last year was right on the line.
They're bottom half. I saw it today.
Middle of the pack.
They're bottom half.
We beat y'all. Y'all probably were bottom of the pack.
We talked about this last week, and even you admitted like A&M's schedule is what it is.
It's a schedule.
Absolutely. You have LSU at home, and then you have Missouri, who ends up with a quarterback go like nobody thought the A&M schedule was going to be a cakewalk.
Exactly.
On August 1st.
Agreed.
We all looked at it and said, there's a 3-game stretch there where if we can win 2 of those games, we come home happy as hell.
No, you're right. And it's idiots always after the fact.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, that's
it's after the fact.
That's why I said
after the fact.
That's why I said I do think it's important. I do think it's important to apply kind of the standard twice. What did we think it was going to be? Right? And how did you perform against it? And then what was it actually? All 3 of those things have value, right? Because what do we think it's going to be? You can't control what it actually becomes. So how did you perform against it matters. But there is that last element where you got to look back and say, okay, what was it actually? And if we look at what it was actually, not that great. Just to correct the point, because we pride ourselves on being factually accurate here on this show. We beat a bottom-feeding Mississippi State team. We beat a good Oklahoma team. We were competitive with a Georgia team. We beat a good Vanderbilt team. Kentucky was not bottom of the pack. Kentucky was dead in the middle. Texas A&M was slightly above the median. The only absolute bottom dwellers we played were Mississippi State. Florida was not a bottom dweller either, by the way. They were also middle of the pack. Bottom dwelling Arkansas. So we played 2 bad teams.
2 bad teams and 2 500 teams.
2 bad teams and a Michigan team that was number 10 at the time. They end up being towards the bottom half of the country in the last part of the year. So
they were terrible.
Yeah. And we played Georgia twice.
But I'm not being an SEC guy. I get on Eric about it all the time, and there is some validity to those data points that he said, but it's the same thing. I always told him, when y'all go in here, it's going to be cannibalism, because it's the same thing. Yeah. Even though those are losses at the bottom half, but the narrative is always SEC football is loaded from top to bottom.
I'm saying we don't have to apply that to the bottom part of the league. And that's why I said that Florida loss is not a good loss. I'm not going to make it a good loss. That's a bad loss. But I think that is separate from the cannibalism part of the conversation. The cannibalism part of the conversation is the fact that Alabama can't beat Oklahoma. Oklahoma can't beat Texas. Texas can't beat Georgia, right? Georgia can't beat Alabama. That's the cannibalism conversation.
But I'm looking at it wholeheartedly, SEC wholeheartedly, not just the top half. Yeah. And people outside looking in. That's what I'm saying. If y'all trying to prove y'all point why you should be in, then either those bottom half teams are looked at as just the bottom half of the SEC, but still better than everybody else.
I think it's a different conversation. Like I told you on the phone yesterday, is what I think has to happen. And bowl season was supposed to do this, but it just doesn't enough. I think if we took the top half
you talking about this
of the SEC and played the bottom half of the Big 12 and took the top half of the Big 12 and made them play the bottom half of the SEC, there's 16 teams in the SEC.
Correct.
something like that. And how many teams in the
I
Big
think
12?
14 is a 14 in the Big 12.
The SEC probably goes 12-2. No worse than 10-4. No worse. If you apply it that way, because that Florida team that played Texas Tech would have gone in there and lost that day. I buy that. That Mississippi State team that played Texas, Kansas State, or who's number 2? BYU. Now that's where BYU, because of their style, maybe a little different. But that defensive grind them up, that's across the board everywhere in the SEC.
Just so, since we pride ourselves on being factual, let me chime in here.
There you go.
So I have the results from the 24-25 season, and you said a decent Oklahoma team, mind you, was 2-6 in conference play. That's not decent.
Were they that bad? I just looked at the number. I actually didn't.
A solid Vanderbilt team, which was 3-5 in conference play.
Get them.
Florida 4-4. The bottom half of the SEC last year starts with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It starts with Mizzou at 5-3. So aside from Georgia, every team in the SEC that
we're looking
Texas
at the 2020. We're looking at the 2024 year.
You've only been in the SEC 2 years. So it's last year, big guy.
I know. Hold on. Wait. You said
24,
it starts. Okay. Hold on.
24,
I'm
25.
going. Okay. Because here's where I think maybe it got hazy. Is Florida was 4-4. That's where the line starts. A 500 team, not a team with a winning record in conference. So the middle of the pack starts.
He's probably going like split the top eight, bottom 8, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that starts at Mizzou. But even if you go
because that bottom no. Hold on. Because that bottom 8. So if he's dropping the line at Mizzou at 5-3, then you've also got Ole Miss, Alabama, LSU, South Carolina, Texas A&M that also went 5-3.
Well, it's arranged by tiebreaker. So Ole Miss would have been the worst of the 5-3 teams. Not Ole Miss, Mizzou. And we know where David stands on this.
Okay, maybe we need, because I think you're going to skew. I think you're going to skew the numbers Florida. Here on me. But go ahead.
You can just start it below Mizzou at Florida. That's every team y'all played last year. So you said a decent Oklahoma team. They were 6-7 on the year. That doesn't move the needle when it comes
not decent. Okay, I'll give you that one.
Kentucky 4-8, 1-7 in conference.
I'll give you that one.
2-10, 0-8 in conference play. Vandy 7-6, 3-5 in conference play. Arkansas 7-6, 3-5 in conference play, and Florida 4-4, 8-5 in conference play. Or 4-4 in conference play, 8-5 overall. Excuse me. So if we're being factual, yes, indeed.
So still apply the same standard. Apply the same standard. You didn't play. You have nobody on your schedule comparable to a 6-2 SEC champion Georgia, who we played twice.
Oh, absolutely.
You have nobody on your schedule comparable.
I'm not saying we did.
Huh?
I'm not saying we did. I'm just saying.
I think I was saying is I'm comparing that at the beginning of the year, we thought A&M's schedule was going to be good.
Yep. Agreed.
At the end of the year, not only was it was wildly below average. Well, because if we look at the midline of SEC last year, which was 5-3, and then we look at the midline of the SEC this year, everybody below that midline has a losing record. You don't even got that large cluster of 4 or 5 teams at 5-3. I digress.
Yeah,
the schedule is the schedule.
Yeah, but
did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
Also followed up and did what they always do, is come to Austin, get that ass beat, and we love it. I will end on, is this the last segment? We got nothing else. This is it.
Well, we got just to
we'll talk about the games. That's cool.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I got one big kaboom stat. I'm not gonna belabor the point. I think most people who watch the show have allegiances. Texas fans feel how they feel. They've got the facts to back it up. They've got the dubs to back it up. But for those of you who are unfamiliar, for A&M that does they do as much talking as Texas. We can agree that's an accurate statement.
I know I do.
A&M has more Yell leaders than they have national titles, Big 12 titles, SEC titles combined in the history of their football program. They've got 5 Yell leaders, guys.
I'm sorry. That's pretty good. I didn't mean boom. Huh? Well, Donnie said he's gonna take it on the chin like a man. So you know,
right here. I came back for it.
That's pretty good because that's pretty good. Wow. Well, there you have it. I think that'll wrap up that segment. But it was fun. And one last thing I'm gonna say. We were finishing up. Game was ending, and Eric was like, before we knew we were gonna be sitting in the parking garage for an hour. He like, man, hit Donnie up, man. See if you want to come have a drink. He said, first drink's on me. I text Donnie. I said, I'm already in Georgetown.
We didn't.
I don't blame you, Donnie. When I lose, I get my ass out of there too. I'm with you on that one.
Hey, we parked over on the other side of 35, so we had to go. You know, we went by the buses.
Okay.
Had to go. Talk to our boy a little bit, and tell him how proud we are of him and all that. But yeah, once that was over, like we got to get.
I feel you, man. But I appreciate you, Donnie. You were a good sport, man. It was a great game. A big part of me thought A&M was gonna get it done. I mean, I did. And I know a little part of Eric did too, but I mean, he is a Texas fan.
I thought it was possible. I told you that. I the one thing I did not do, even though we got the desired outcome, the one thing I'd never do is go back and rewrite history of what I said. I absolutely said that if anything, I was wrong because I said in no world does one particular team dominate. I thought it was going to be a close game down to the wire where we didn't know, within the last couple of sessions, we didn't know who was going to win the game. And I was a little wrong in that aspect of once Texas scored in the fourth quarter to kick off the fourth quarter, that gap and A&M scoring and then not even able to put Texas in like a 3rd and long or anything on that next drive.
That felt like a dagger.
They never put the game back in doubt where it always felt like it was Texas' thing to lose. So I was wrong in that aspect. I expected a very close, very competitive game. I underestimated what it meant to the kids on Texas's side. I underestimated what that level of pride would do to their focus and their execution. I was telling him, Donnie, that when we played Georgia, I said Kirby Smart absolutely proved who he was because he got Georgia to overperform in every single category versus what they had done on the year. And I thought Sark did the same thing on Friday, where we overperformed in all of our problem areas. We were decent in the penalty category. We didn't turn the ball over. We were able to run the ball. We were able to get the ball downfield off play action. All of those areas that we had struggled at one time or another and put a complete game together where our defense and offense complemented each other. It was always the opposite. So he was able to do something that I hadn't seen all year, where he was able to get the best out of everybody in the biggest moment.
Well, it definitely was, man. But that's put to bed. It was fun, Donnie. You're always welcome, man. You shown
the playoffs, baby.
True that. So, but
we gotta remember. Hold on, no, that's true.
And that wasn't a dig at Eric.
That's true. I just want to make sure.
It was good to give him one, though.
I just want to make sure we apply the same standard when you get there. Getting there ain't enough.
No, hell no, it ain't enough.
You got to win some games. You got to do when you get there now.
Oh, 100%.
All right.
Yeah. And look,
don't embarrass at this point, just so that I can have a credible gripe for the foreseeable future. I do not want you to win a national title, and I will never root for that, no matter the scenario. But for you guys to have some mild success in the playoffs, I think would prove me right. So I'm actually rooting for a first round win for you. Then you go play hopefully Ohio State and get your ass kicked. But I will settle for it.
Introduce them to the Texas Loser Lounge.
I just want to say, as an Aggie fan, if there are any Aggie fans listening, back away from the ledge.
My God.
On August 1st, if we would have said you're going to be 11-1 You're going to host a playoff game. You guys would have said, hit the fast forward button. Let's go to December and put the ball down. Let's play.
Yeah.
Either back away from the ledge or do us all a favor and jump off.
Yeah, and don't come back.
Yeah, don't come back.
I think it's the doubt. I will say, from what I've heard and listening, I do think it's the doubt of the general battered Aggie syndrome. But I think flashing forward, Texas was the best team you played all season. And
disagree.
Okay. I'm
I think Texas and Notre Dame on a neutral field, I think Notre Dame wins.
I don't even say the F word on this show. But
you said it 7 times already, so it don't matter.
You're sick.
Because you never know what Texas team is going to show up. Is it going to be Florida, Texas, or is it going to be A&M?
I guess that's my thing. When I think about it, I try to apply if both teams show up, where's the seat? Because then the question becomes, where's the ceiling, right?
Texas best versus A&M's best.
Texas best versus Notre Dame's best.
Or Notre Dame's best.
I do believe is better. That's neither here nor there. We will hopefully we get a chance to see it. If Notre Dame doesn't get in, I want them. Break the bowl rules. I don't give me Notre Dame.
If y'all get in, they need to just send y'all to Kyle. Let's play.
I like that.
I honestly think that is not as crazy a proposition as it sounds when you say it.
I think A&M falling to where they did is a little aggravating in that sense, because the committee, and I'm going to make this quick. I promise, David.
You're good.
The committee talks about analytics and strength of schedule and strength of resume and all of that. And when you just put team A, B, C up there, and you look at strength of schedule, strength of resume, and all of that, the teams that have one loss, A&M has the best strength of schedule. They have the best strength of resume in those one-loss teams. So you're telling me what you said you were going to judge teams off of. Now you're not judging them off.
Same thing we said earlier.
What I think,
language,
this is the part of they are applying at least one layer of humanity to this, is the human instinct to cover your own ass, because we see it a lot in how they consistently are keeping a team in between Notre Dame and Miami, so that they don't have to answer that question of why is Notre Dame in, why is Miami out. I think they've decided already that A&M shouldn't get a first round bye. So how do you protect against that? Well, you got to put them at 7 because you don't know what's going to happen during conference, during game week. And then you can fix it all, right? I think we're going to see, and he kept making it a point, and they've kind of dropped some cryptic tweets. They keep reinforcing the point. And I do think between conference championship week or this week and conference championship week, I think we will see more of some shifting than we've ever seen. When we go back the last couple of years, we only see it involving the people that played. I think we're going to see a ton of movement with some teams that were idle, because I do think they will have some kind of quest to get it right. But I think they've given themselves some insurance to be able to say, okay, we can slide A&M back to 5th, where if that's where we truly believe they belong, or up to 6th, if that's where we believe they belong. But if we do it now, we lose the leverage to do it later. Same thing. I think they're saving themselves with Miami, Notre Dame, because I think they're praying for a BYU win, or some kind of win that shakes things up, and then they just have free reign and free cover to do whatever they want, whatever they were going to do anyway. So I hate it.
We'll see. Well, once again, I appreciate you, Donnie, man. We're gonna let you go. We're gonna wrap the show in a minute and just talk about some predictions. But you're welcome anytime you want to get on. Go at Eric, or bring another element. There you go. Bring another element, or you might have to send a picture and we'll put it on the Instagram page of you honoring your other bet that you had with your buddy from Texas that you got to wear his jersey.
I'll send it to you. I got to do it.
We need that. That's the kind of content that people are looking for.
Yeah, and we'll put that on the page, Just Talking Ball Instagram page, man. But I appreciate you, man, and holler at me. We're always in touch, man. You got the number. I'm gonna call you probably tomorrow. We'll talk, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
Eric,
man.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, you held your own, dog. You held your own,
baby.
You held your own.
I hope you get in And if you do, let's put the ball down and let's run it back.
Yeah, hey, now Donnie.
Hey, what Lane Kiffin say? Spot the ball.
Hey, Donnie's like looking down at y'all now, like we'll see. We'll see. That's a good position to be in. But all right,
we're in.
Down, but that's fine.
Little brother may get in. We don't know. They may keep him outside the door.
We'll see.
All right, man. Well, I'll holler at you, brother. All
Thanks,
right,
guys. Y'all
take
have
care.
a great one.
Anytime. You too, man. So we're gonna move on right now and talk about the upcoming games. And briefly, we both won 6. Eric has some bold predictions, and they didn't pan out, but we're not gonna belabor that. But we ended this week. I'll just say this week even in wins, even though you have more games to choose from. So real quick, it's time. We don't have the group of 5, but we will talk about it. Conference championship weekend coming up, man. My picks: Georgia over Alabama, just the way you think it. Ohio State close over Indiana. I think Indiana's gonna come to play, man. Virginia, give me Virginia over Duke. I know you got your boy Diaz over there, a former Texas guy, but and then I think Texas Tech is gonna beat BYU to the point where BYU is gonna be out of the playoff, and somebody else is gonna get moved in. So who do you have, Eric?
I've got Virginia over Duke. I think they're just playing well. I love that Manny Diaz got him in the game. I'm a fan of his game. I am prayerful that you are right that Texas Tech beats BYU out of the conversation. I think Georgia wins close. Kirby and revenge, man. It just is something about to coin a phrase. He got the dog in him. I think Ohio State rolls. I think the Ohio State Indiana spread is bigger than the Georgia Alabama spread.
Wow.
I have to see it. You know what I mean?
Right now, Ohio State is a 4-point favorite, and Georgia's a 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I think both games are double digits. To be honest with you, I think both games are double digits. Yeah,
and before the other two, Sun Belt, Troy versus James Madison. James Madison is a 28-point favorite. So yeah, I'm with James Madison. And then the American Conference, North Texas versus Tulane, which North Texas is a 2.5-point favorite. I'm gonna go with North Texas.
Tulane. Summerall wants to go out. Summerall wants to go out big. I believe both teams are letting their coaches who are gone are letting both those coaches coach.
They are. So we'll definitely. I hadn't. This is the first time I'm talking to Eric about it. I'm thinking we're gonna do our first live. We might watch a half live on one of these championship games. Since neither one of us have a team in there, so we'll have to see what Big Time over there. See, he's on his phone now. What Big Time has planned this weekend. But nah.
I was digging in my nails so that I didn't touch you.
We're gonna do it, but no. But I appreciate you, man. Regular season's over. I appreciate your contribution and taking the time out to help me out with this, man. I had a lot of fun as always. This is our 3rd year, so we're rolling, man. And
hopefully Texas getting in forces us to do a playoff show. We don't know.
Yeah. And we'll come back for one more. But obviously, we might talk about the conference championships and kind of what it sets up, and then let the bracket play out, and then we'll maybe talk about the national championship and what led up to that. But yeah, we'll probably see y'all next week. But after that, it'll probably be a gap until end of January. But I know you got those horns to go see, man. I appreciate you as always. Rock Chalk.
Praise the Lord and hook 'em horns.
He's praising the Lord hard to get in that playoff spot. We see y'all. Hey.